Well, hello, hello, hello. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Here I am for my weekly live. I am streaming live on both Facebook and YouTube. I gotta say, just like as an aside, for as someone who streams somewhat regularly for a living, I absolutely love being able to do this in both places at once. It's so cool. So please, as I go through what I want to chat about today, I would love it if you would tell me what you think. Type in the comments, say hello, tell me you like what I'm doing, tell me you don't like it, tell me you got a question, tell me whatever's going on. I would absolutely love to hear from you. I can see comments on both YouTube and Facebook, so I'll be happy to answer those. I'm sure you don't necessarily care about like the technical elements of this, but that is what it is. And yeah, let's chat. I mean, one of the reasons I do this live is I love to hear from you. So please do share comments, share thoughts, whatever it might be as we go through all of this, because I would love to hear from you. So autopilot. So as I think some of you know, I'm doing these weekly lives based on the podcast I release every week. So this week or last week on Friday, I released an episode on autopilot. And this is a topic that I've become more and more and more interested in as time has gone on. And there's a reason for it. And again, if you're just joining us, say hi in the chat. Go ahead, tell me your name, tell me where you're at, tell me you got a question, tell me what you think. I'd love to hear from you. So autopilot is a thing I've become very interested in because a big part of what I do is help people with sort of the patterns they get stuck in, right? Whether that be behavior patterns or thought patterns. And autopilot is a thing that I think we rely on a lot for good reason, for very good reason. But it's also a thing that can really absolutely drag us down and it can keep us stuck. So I've been very fascinated about this. I've been very interested in these sort of like behavioral things that we keep going over and over and over, these things we keep tripping over, these things we keep experiencing when the sort of events that lead us to it are in autopilot. Let me explain what I mean. I talked about in the podcast, I talked about this idea of things leading up to a trigger that are on autopilot. So maybe it's people that you talk to or places you go or decisions you make or whatever it might be, right? Like we have this thing where we are putting our sorry, I just got distracted there. We have this thing where we like put our decisions on someone else or on something else because life is busy, right? Like shit's busy. And so, we're like living our lives, we're doing our things, and there's certain things we just do. We don't really think about. And so those people or situations or places that may end up being triggers for us, we don't even realize it because we're just doing it. It's just how it is, right? I have a buddy of mine that is going through this process, and he lives by a minor league ballpark, and he loves going to ball games, and so he does it. And while he's there, he usually drinks 3 or 4 beers. Nothing crazy over the span of a game, like probably more than he should, but normally that then leads to more, and we all know how this goes. Well, anyway, I was talking to him about it, and he was talking about like, yeah, like I'm doing all of these things to change, to change my drinking and to change what I'm doing, and it's going on and on and on. And then he's like, yeah, and I'm just like, I'm not sure what I'm going to do about the ball games. And then I asked him a question which he hadn't thought of, which is like, well, why do you have to go to the ball game? Like, why can't you for a couple of weeks not, or watch it like the local minor league team here? I can watch it on the MLB app. Like, do you have to go? And it was like this moment where like a light bulb went off for him, and he's like, oh no, I guess I don't. And this is what happens, right? Because we just get on autopilot. We get so used to doing things like, oh, I go to the game every Tuesday and that's it. And we don't even stop to really think of like, wow, what are those autopilot ways of looking at things, and those autopilot things, or those things we're feeling because of autopilot that are triggers. And so that's the place that's been really, really interesting to me. And one of the things I'll do when I work with my clients, when we try to like dig into autopilot and we sort of like to talk about that, is I will have them keep a log of everything they did over a couple of days. Now, this is kind of intense. So if you want to try this, if you're intrigued by this idea, you can try it out. Come tell me, how it went. But basically, what I've had people do is just like keep lists of things that they do during the day. And I woke up and then I had breakfast and then I had a shower and then I went to work and then you get the idea. But like when you do this, you can look back over the day and you can say, okay, how many of those things were like conscious things that I did? Like things that I, like really was aware of and made the decision to do versus things I just did because it's what I do. And it's always shocking to people. Two things that they find, right? One thing they find is like, holy shit, there's a lot of things I wasn't even thinking of doing that I did. Right? Like it just kind of happened. That's thing number one. And then thing number two is this is how many things they even like skip, right? That like they don't even realize like, oh, I'm doing this thing. Like it's not even, they're not even aware of it, right? They don't even think of it and they're just doing it. This is a really key thing for us because we don't have to keep our head full with so much stuff, which is great. But it's also a big detractor because we can very quickly start putting ourselves in situations that might be triggering, that might be difficult for us, that might be hard for us to work with. And so that brings me to this idea of the list, that when you start making the list, what you start to do is you start to become aware. It's like, oh, okay, I'm actually aware now of what's going on. Like, oh, I actually am starting to see, okay, this is what's happening. See, this is one of the reasons that autopilot is so dangerous is like if you're working to quit drinking or really any sort of change you're making, what you're looking to do is behave differently, is make different decisions going on, along the road. And the reality of the situation is that so many of the thoughts and so many of the decisions we make on a day-to-day basis are rote. Like we're just doing them over and over. And so unless we're paying attention to this, it's really difficult to make the change. This is one of the reasons it feels so tough to quit drinking, right? Is that like we find ourselves in the same situations with the same people in the same places in the same routines and then finding it difficult to quit. So you can absolutely give yourself a leg up by identifying those places that you're on autopilot, doing things like the list idea to like see where they're at and then start to break them, right? Because that's inevitably the next question. So someone does the list thing and then they'll say to me like, "All right, so now what?" Like, okay, like what do we do? How do I handle this? What comes next? And it's a fantastic question. And the reality is that like once you see it, the very next thing, the only other thing you have to do at that point, once you see it, is to address it, to start to be aware. And just the act of writing it down, the act of seeing it, the act of going, oh my God, I'm not even aware that I'm doing this stuff. Just the act of that kind of brings it into consciousness. It'll bring it to a place where you see it and you go, oh, okay, I'm going to do things differently. That is how that works. But once you see it, you can actively work to do it. So there's a few things that I'd love to give you if you find yourself on autopilot with, schedule or routine things, that might help, right? So the first is do things differently. So I think I might have mentioned this on the podcast where, I used to come in the back door to my apartment and I used to make a drink and then go say hi to the family because the back door came into the kitchen. So it worked out really well that I was able to get in, get my shoes off, make a drink, go sit down and, sit in the living room and talk and hang out and all of that. So I changed that routine. When I identified that sort of like autopilot way of doing things, that mindless way of parking my car and walking to the apartment and walking inside, that was a trigger. I made a different choice, right? So like I chose to park in front instead. Oddly enough, funny side story, about 6 months after I quit drinking, the choice to park out front, I kept doing it and I parked it. We lived on a fairly busy road. My car was totaled by a drunk driver one night. in front of the road. And I still to this day find it very ironic that that is what happened 6 months after I quit drinking. But most of the time that doesn't happen, right? Most of the time, like the decisions to change the routine don't lead to something like that. So change the routine, park somewhere else, rearrange your furniture, do something different, go a different way to work. Like there's all types of things we can do that sort of wake us up out of that autopilot behavior, right? So that's number one. Number two, if it's not something you can change, or there's not like really something you can do about it, or something you can shift on it, um, if that's the case, then the next thing that I find to be super duper handy is to like tell those around you that that's going on. Like tell people that that's what's happening and that's what you're seeing, and ask them for help. Like ask them about doing it differently. Ask them about like how do I shift this? Like what can we do? I have found that I enlisting people in this process, like enlisting people and helping, like, oh, okay, like this isn't working, well maybe that's going to work, or maybe this other thing's going to work. Like I have found that to be incredibly useful and helpful for people. So that's the other thing, right? Just ask for that support, ask for that help, and reach out and say like, hey, this is something that's going on, what can I do? Can I make this happen differently? Because when we do that, um suddenly things start to make a lot more sense, because we get help, and then those autopilot things don't seem as autopilot. The last piece, and this also has to do with other people, is change the people who are around you when you're doing it. So for instance, like if you always go to the grocery store, right? If you always go to the grocery store after work, and that's a huge trigger, which I knew that was one for me. I talked to a lot of people who that's similar with that. See if you can pick someone up, see if you can do something to make that automatic thing less automatic, right? Like, oh, like maybe I can pick up my kid before I go, or maybe I can go to that one instead of that one. I mean, I went to a different grocery store for a while after I quit drinking for that exact reason, just because it felt different. Right. So these are the sort of things that you can do when you start to realize, like, oh, this is the autopilot that I'm on. This is where I'm at. This is where I'm struggling. When you start to see that, do some of these things, because these things will change the sort of autopilot nature of the whole thing. And when you change that, lots of stuff can happen, right? You can find yourself in a position where all of a sudden, okay, now it's happening. Now I'm at a place where I'm able to shift these autopilot things, and stuff looks different and stuff feels different. And that's what we're going for, right? That's what makes a big difference. So anyway, that is it for me. I hope you like these thoughts on autopilot. Tell me, go ahead and comment on the lives, either on YouTube or on Facebook. I will be back next Wednesday with another live. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's at Scott Pinyard Coach. I've got videos, I've got shorts. It's a great way to interact with me. It's a great way to get more content. It's totally free. And if you like these lives, and also I release the podcast on Fridays. So the podcast is posted on the YouTube channel, but you can also find it wherever fine podcasts are downloaded. And you can subscribe over there as well. It really makes a difference. Thank you so much. I hope you're doing great. Have a great week, and I'll see you soon.